Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, it's the political season, so you expect a lot of political talk all over the place up until the elections hold. Well, this morning we do have Dr. Ayo Olorunfemi, who is the Deputy National Chairman of the Labour Party. He joins us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today. Well, we'll focus on aspects of your manifesto. But by the way, we did reach out to Ambassador Muhammad Hassan, who is a member of APC's PCC. At the moment, he's not able to make it on the program. And partly because, I'm not sure, you might have seen the response or the criticisms from, for instance, the APC concerning your party's manifesto after the much-awaited release. They did say, well, it took 15 pages to have graphics of the presidential candidates and his vice. You came up with figures that China moved 740 million people out of poverty, China's Communist Party. You forgot to include, or you didn't include, or deliberately refused to include how long it took China to do that, which was in 40 years. And the APC says that even makes their plan of moving 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years more realistic as opposed to what your party has put out, particularly concerning those areas?
Okay, first and foremost, you need to talk about a secure nation before you begin to talk of any other thing. If you look at our manifesto, we talk about a safe Nigeria, a secured nation. You know, when you have security everywhere, then prosperity will go to everywhere. So to APC is it's already 7 years old in governance. And the previous manifesto, I don't know how far they have been able to fulfill what they said they would do to Nigeria. But, you know, it is easier for anybody to begin to criticize the document that we have. Labour Party is not a new political party. We have been here for a very long time, and we have what we stand for. There are certain things that we are noted for. Our program is people, people, and people. You know, so we are not bothered about the criticism coming from the failed political party that couldn't take us to anywhere for 7 years.
You don't think the message is worth consideration?
Well, we are looking at constructive criticisms. We are talking about people who have been in government for 7 years and couldn't achieve anything. Talking about security, we are worse than they met us in 2015. Talk about the economy, you and I know what the situation is. We're talking about cashless economy, then you push out POS, point of sales service machine, and now made the economy to be cash. You know, you go to POS, you collect cash. Now there's a somersault in the policy. You are making it difficult again for people to bank.
Well, we'll come to that in a bit. But from that message, it comes across as though the party is saying that, look, can the Labour Party be a lot more specific in terms of what is their realistic target or objective, or how many do they intend to lift out of poverty and how long? For what's the duration of time?
You see, talking about time now, I want us to focus on the project itself first and foremost before you begin to talk about time. It is a country where we claim to be very religious, but we also pretend not to appreciate the religion or the religions that we portray. Everything depends on God. But, you know, when you are determined and you recognize your culture, your environment, you know, and you have a program that is suited for the people that you want to govern, I'm telling you, if we tell you 10 years, it could be 4 years. It could be 3 years. The turnaround can take place within 3 years, so depending on the political will.
Is that how we're supposed to relate with your party manifesto?
No, our party manifesto is very clear. I've said it from the onset. Our party manifesto is very clear, and we know where we are going for. We know what we are going for.
So what do you mean everything depends on God then?
Well, okay. Even America say what?
Yeah, but did the party get their manifesto from God?
Yes, of course. The inspiration comes from God. Even your being here depends on God.
So
everything, and as a people,
but God is not the author of confusion.
Wait, it's not an author of confusion. That is exactly what I'm saying. God is not an author of confusion. Okay, and when you depend on Him, okay, like you will confess in your church, like she will confess in her church or in her mosque. Okay, so don't come here and pretend as if this God does not exist. Well, so what I'm saying is this.
No, I don't think the argument is about the existence of God.
So if we...
I think that the conversation is about a plan.
Yes.
Usually, I mean, I think nowadays the business executive talk about smart plans.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be specific. You know,
you have to be you have to be realistic and all of that. All of those things.
And they have a time frame. It must have a time frame.
Very fantastic.
So that's what my colleague is asking you. What's the time frame in which you plan to implement this? You cannot tell us it depends on God.
You see, we will tell you we can give you time frame, okay, based on what we are going to meet on ground. You are not yet in government. You are not yet familiar with the mess that this government has created, and maybe the previous government too. Then we'll sit down and begin to tell you that by next year we don't lie. We don't tell lies.
But what you have said is that
when you talk about it can be shorter than what we are talking about.
But you must have at least a projection that no matter how bad the mess we meet is, within this period, and based on the projections that we're seeing in terms of income, and based on what we can see from certain areas and which are transparently put in the public space, we should be able to do so and so and so within this time frame.
Yeah, that is where I stopped before you interjected.
Yeah,
and I said it could be 3 years, it could be 4 years. But the first thing we are going to be doing is to ensure that Nigeria is secure. Without security, there's no prosperity anywhere. Okay? And I can tell you, the only political party that can bring about security, safe environment in Nigeria is that political party that never got involved in the mess that we have in the country. The two other political parties, you call them major political parties, they were involved in bringing crisis to Nigeria, bringing insecurity to Nigeria. But Labour Party was never party to everything that led to the insecurity that we have today in Nigeria. So if we are going to face it, we face it headlong.
You know,
this government cannot face it because they were involved. They are complicit in the mess that we find ourselves today.
For a number of people, I mean, Labour Party did not exist until the emergence of the presidential aspirant. I was going to say Governor Peter Obi, but he's the presidential aspirant right now on the platform of the Labour Party. He's the one who has injected life into the Labour Party. Would you agree with that?
No.
You wouldn't?
Yeah, I will explain.
And the momentum that your party enjoys
like I told you,
as a result of his emergence as a presidential candidate.
Like I told you before, everything depends on time that God has set for certain things to happen. What is happening in Nigeria today has been planned many years ago by God. And this is the manifestation time for this thing to happen. I must tell you that Labour Party did not just come just from the blue. It has been hiding over the years. You recall that we were in court on several occasions. Okay? The TUC and NSC decided that they must be involved in active politics. And for that reason, TUC, reorganized its political commission, for which I am still the chairman, under Kodri Olaleye, handed over to Osifo. We did the reconciliation that you saw in the Labour Party. And today, of course, if a Labour Party remained the way it used to be, Peter Obi will not come there and say he wants to come and contest. Where a situation whereby somebody will say, he's not our candidate. The other one will say, it's our candidate. But today, we have a unified Labour Party. Both the TUC, NSC, and the executive of Labour Party are united together. That was why Peter Obi could come and use the platform. And don't forget that we have our structure in all the local government and units of the federation. So those who are saying we don't have structure, we laugh at them. But now they see what Labour movement can do with their own political party.
So what you're saying is that a number of factors have culminated in what we're seeing as not just the Labour Party, but also affecting the fortunes, or I say the popular fortunes of the Labour Party presidential candidate.
Fantastic. Yeah, you are correct.
The
first and foremost, we need to also commend us for looking for a candidate like Peter Obi. We couldn't have just gotten any candidate from the wood and say, okay, this is the candidate we want to.
Did you look for him or he looked for you?
We looked for him. We searched. He's not the only one. We searched for candidates. We searched for him, and we told him we needed. You
didn't have any candidates in house?
We had candidates. We had candidates. Patu Tomi was a candidate. We had several other candidates. We considered so many other options.
Was Professor Patu Tomi a member of your party?
Yeah, he came to join us at a point, even before Peter Obi came.
When was that?
That was around January this year. Okay. He came to join us. You know, he was having there was this collaboration between us and the NC Front, Nigerian Labour Congress, TUC, and all of that. And at a point, we took a decision that, look, we can't form a new political party when we have our own political party.
Okay, let me go back to your manifesto now. Part of what the presidential candidate and the presidential candidate of your party has promised to do is to look at hourly wages for workers. And I do know that, you know, amongst Labour workers, amongst the not Labour Party now, but Labour unions, that has been something that has been a bone of contention. They think that workers will get cheated if hourly wages were introduced. How is your party reconciling some of the things that Labour had kicked against in the past or might have objections to with some of the things that you have now promised in your manifesto?
You see, we have different types of employment, okay? And I think the aspect that our presidential candidate is talking about has to do with those employment that you're a situation where you work for 10 hours and you get peanut. Those are the area he's talking about. For employment, we want you to agree with us that employment is not just social welfare. It's about productivity, and that is one of the things we stand for. As apart from being labor movement that emphasize more on productivity, okay, and the reward system. So we don't just joke with productivity. It must go hand in hand with
I'm sorry if I missed something here, but what category then is this policy of hourly wages going to apply, since you say there are categories of employment?
Fine. You agree with me that someone who is digging the ground works more than those of us who are sitting down here in the comfort of an air condition, you know, talking or writing. They do more work. They do a lot of hard work.
You mean manual labor?
The manual laborers. You know, they do a lot of work. And you can't compare somebody who is carrying heavy loads, you know, from one point to another, or who have to excavate the ground, you know, spending 6 hours to excavate the ground. You must reward that person handsomely in order for him to be able to live according to.
So is that supposed to be what? Reward him much more than who? Scientists or researchers who send people to the moon? Is that the context?
No, that is not the context. Don't get me wrong. Okay. If you are a scientist and you are working in a particular sector of the economy, you are also rewarded based on what you are able to produce. Okay? If you are a researcher, you are rewarded based on the research you are doing.
So which category would this apply?
So, but the group that we are talking about, those excavators, those loaders, those guys who are working at our various terminals, you know, carrying, using crane and all of that, they should be rewarded appropriately. And the only way you can reward them is to attach their wages to the hours they work.
Yeah, so the question is this. How are you reconciling? Because before now, even talking with organized labor, they had kicked against that even for minimum wage workers to say, why don't we look at this in such a way that people can earn, can work in different places as is done elsewhere, where you put in a certain number of hours. If, for instance, cleaners, they can clean a particular place in one company and go somewhere else and go and clean another place. Why can't we structure it that way? And they said, oh no, workers are going to be cheated, people are not going to have job security, etc. Have you had these conversations with organized labor to see how some of these, of these plans of yours sit with them, whether they are happy, to have some of these plans, or whether or not they're going to kick against it?
Now we are having our own government, and we know how to apply that very, very well and to the advantage of Nigerian workers. The 30,000 naira minimum wage divided into 30 places. How much is that? 1,000 per day. Is that money? It's nothing. So we are now saying, if you are paying me 1,000 naira per hour, and I have to give you 6 hours, okay, that's 6,000 per day. Okay, and I work in a particular organization, I can decide to work for 6 hours and go back to my house. Who says I don't?
Sir, I think you're misunderstanding me. Yeah. I don't have any objections to that. Yeah. What I'm saying is, have you had the conversation with organized labor? That's the question I'm asking.
If we are Labour Party and we are saying this, it means the organized labor is already in what we are talking about. We are involved.
So they don't have a problem with it?
As I speak here, I'm a Secretary General of a union. Mm-hmm. So, and whatever we are doing here is with the consent and approval of Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress.
So it's as if you're keeping the implementation now, to your chest.
Of course, we don't have to expose it because before they mess it up. When we get there, you will see how this thing will work. And I can assure you, Nigerian workers will be happier for what we're trying to do.
Well, like colleagues in Lagos, I've got questions, so you go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Lots of issues raised, actually, and I think I'll start from the labor matter, the hourly wage issue, because I think it's a major one for Nigerians. Yes, you're also a labor person, but a lot of people will question whether or not all of the labor members in Nigeria are really a part of this, because we've seen even former leaders of labor being members of other parties and even declaring support. So, I mean, that's on the one hand, but particularly about this hourly wage. If you divide that 30,000 naira minimum wage, as you said, by not even 30, let's say 25, because, I mean, workers don't work, I mean, for every day of the month, right? So, I mean, there are weekends when they don't have to go to work. So let's imagine you divide 30,000 naira by 25. What you get is, what, 1,200? I hope my math get correct. Yeah, 1,200. Then divided by 8 hours on a daily basis, that's 150 naira per hour, going by the current minimum wage, right? So for your party, since this is going to be a major campaigning point, and hopefully if you get into government, this will be something you want to follow through. So what hourly rate would you be proposing for Nigerian workers? If it currently stands at 150, what would your proposal be, seeing that you're also a labor person yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much. It depends on the nature of job that will be given out. For instance, when you take costly look at the manual labor out there, a laborer out there, don't take less than 2,500 naira, 3,000 naira per day, which is still not okay as far as reward system is concerned. If you base that on hourly, divide 3,000 by 6 hours, you'll be talking about 500 naira per hour. So when you benchmark that against what we have now, certainly you'll be talking of something within the range of 500 to 1,000 naira per hour, depending on the nature of work. So, and at the end of the day, someone can effectively say that yes, you can make up to 4,000 naira in a day, and when you divide when you multiply 4,000 naira in a day by 20 or by 25, you're talking about 180,000, 100,000 naira, for somebody who has worked very, very hard, as a laborer.
So maybe correcting that, ideally what you're saying is what we should have as a minimum wage in Nigeria. Instead of a 30,000, is that between 80,000 to 100,000? I mean,
80 to 100,000, very correct, very correct. So, that is exactly where we are going.
So is your party able to promise Nigerians a minimum wage of 80,000 naira? Not just promise, fulfill that promise.
We shall, because we have what it takes in this country to be prosperous.
Right.
And so, we can even do better than that as we move on.
Okay, so let's talk about the workability of it, because I mean, if there's anything we have seen during politicking, politicians can promise anything. They promise you literally heaven and earth. How will that be implemented? 80,000 naira minimum wage. That is not ×2, almost ×3 of the current minimum wage, which some are still even grappling to, pay right now. So where will the funds come from? Where would you get the revenue to pay workers 80,000 naira at least as a minimum wage?
Yeah, I told you earlier that employment is not just about social welfare, it's about productivity. Okay? And so we are going to be making people to be productive, and out of what they are producing, something will come out. I can assure you. We have a mass, arable lands in the southeast, Taraba. That is the kind of land we have in the southeast. Is what Israel has been spending a lot of money to get. And you agree with me that in Israel they don't import food, so they export. And we are talking about export-oriented industrialization. So how we wait till that time. By the time you see prosperity in display, you will agree with us that that is the minimum we can take. As a matter of fact, the amount of oil in the name of oil theft that has been leaving this country. We know where these things are coming from. Well, they say there's no money. We know where these things are coming from. This money has been stashed in the cupboard and the rooms and toilets of some few individuals.
Well,
so that has accounted for the kind of insecurity that we are facing in the country today, because even our youth are protesting.
Right.
When you see people going into crime, people becoming violent, it is an evidence of protest, antagonism to the criminal activities of people in governance.
I mean, don't forget that even if Nigeria were to do 3 million barrels per day, first there will be a cap. There's a natural cap of OPEC, but just how much revenue can we get from that? How much will be available to spend? Don't forget, we're servicing our debts. It's taking up a huge chunk of our revenue. So this government is even trying to move away sort of from oil, get other sources of revenue. So the question is, if we were even doing ×2 of what we're doing right now, how much will be available to sell? How much of that revenue will be available to use? That's a big concern. So I'm not sure oil will be very viable in some sense, as you have said. But I'd like you to speak to this. My colleague would want to come in soon. But regarding the philosophy of the Labour Party, I mean, some would say you are like an establishment person. You're a Labour Party person because, I mean, you are a Labour person. Of course, you've been in the party before the emergence or the entry of Mr. Peter Obi, his vice, from the PDP, naturally. And just yesterday, we saw your candidate in the Osun governorship election. He actually is now a member of the PDP, really moving from the Labour Party to the PDP. And some will wonder, so what then is the philosophy of your party if someone who really was your party member some months ago, was your candidate, campaigned under your party banner, got support from your party, yes, didn't do well in the election, but then can easily then move to another party? So really, what then is the philosophy of the Labour Party? Is this just another party where people come and go?
Don't forget that the Osun governorship election took place before the full reconciliation of the various factions within the Labour Party. And so people before now come in, use the political party when they were dumped in one way or the other from their political party. But right now, the situation is not as it used to be. Before you can be allowed into the party to contest in any election, we must have certified that you belong to our ideological group, and of course, you know what we stand for. Not the socialist, not the capitalist, but of course, we are much more interested in productivity, reward system, and good environment for prosperity to occur. So when you are mentioning someone like Lasun, who has gone back to PDP, we cannot be surprised because we also took his candidacy with a pinch of salt. And you saw the outcome of the election, where Labour did not put all the weight on that particular process. Then coming back to the point you raised earlier, I think you made some comment about I can't really fix that now. Yeah, if you can remind me about what you said concerning
Yeah, Mr. Olorunfemi, I wonder if you also take his followership that he's moving with to the PDP, back to the PDP with a pinch of salt. But let's make progress on the conversation. I'm looking at your manifesto, just released manifesto here, and one of the critical points is to secure Nigeria and end banditry insurgency. And the strategy to achieving that, they're listed, strategies now listed this way: undertake institutional reforms, reforming the security sector, swift, firm and fair prosecution of criminals, enhance coordination, improve the functioning and effectiveness of security agencies, strengthen the Ministry of Interior, Police Affairs, and it goes on and on. But one thing is missing there, which is community policing, and has been at the heart of the conversation as far as securing Nigeria is concerned. And of course, also material to the debate on restructuring, which is something that has also been, conspicuously absent in the promises made by your presidential candidate, as he traverses the length and breadth of the country. I'd like to find out why this is not contained in the ideological disposition of the Labour Party.
Yeah, you just mentioned you used the word restructuring, and restructuring is all encompassing. When it comes to detail, then you're talking about community policing. Of course, it's part of what, apart from community policing, we believe that the police system that was handed over to us, the constabulary system that was handed over to us, started from native authority to local government and on like that. For now, we are looking at the situation that we find ourselves, and we believe so seriously that having state police, will help a lot, and we are also committed to that. Of course, as I speak to you, the paramount ruler in my own community has been kidnapped right in his house. I'm from the southwest, and we are running helter-skelter over that. Of course, if we have state police that has been so equipped to handle this kind of a thing, okay, before it happened, intelligence gathering will have revealed that certain group of people, certain guys are doing ABC. Of course, I don't have to stay here and begin to give you details as to how we are going to tackle insecurity, because doing so will jeopardize our strategies. But I can assure you, I've been kidnapped before. I've lived with these people in the forest, and I know their mindset. I know what they are doing. I know the reason why they are doing what they are doing, and I also know how they came into the country. So, and I'm happy to be part of the Labour Party, and that will drive the process of fighting insecurity in Nigeria.
Okay, just one more thing before we go. You forgot to tell us you were going to suggest how much minimum wage will then be per hour based on your projections.
Yeah, we are looking at between 500 to 1,000, depending on the nature, the nature of work that will be done per hour. So if you do an average, if you do a kind of simulation of that, it will give you an average of 80, okay, between 80 and 100,000 per month. And so if we are talking about minimum wage of 80,000, of course, that is where we ought to have been.
Okay. I think we'll make a lot more time, so much later, so that we can now dissect properly, because if you're doing this, you have to calculate how much that will be, then if it's going to be 8 hours a day, multiplied by that by a month, and if that's sustainable, where the funds will come. But there's certainly a lot to focus on in the days ahead, but we do have to thank you, Dr. Ayo Olorunfemi, Deputy National Chairman for Labour Party. All the best.
Thank you very much.